Good afternoon, hello, welcome to the Triathlon Dan YouTube channel. Welcome to 4 days after the National 24-Hour TT, we are, aren't we?
Yeah.
So it's sunk in a little bit now. This video is basically the post-race wash-up. Throughout the event, Lee didn't see anything what we were doing. He has now seen through the videos, but we also haven't really spoken to Lee in detail because at the finish you weren't too chatty. So, we figured we'd give it a couple of days and then hear from you. So this video we're going to cover, and I've made a list so you know it's serious. We're going to go through the stats, pacing and ride stats, and how Lee felt the ride actually went itself. We're going to cover equipment, what worked well, what didn't go well. Nutrition, again, what worked well, what didn't, support, recovery, and then we're going to go on to some questions that some of you lovely guys and girls have asked on Instagram. So let's start off with the actual ride itself. Lee, talk us through the distance, speed, power, how the ride went in your own words.
Yeah, so I covered a distance of 467.8 miles according to my Wahoo. I think I was credited with, it keeps coming down every time I look at it.
You keep revising the results. And
it's like the high end of 495 now.
Yeah.
495, 465.
Yeah, I'm taking that though.
Yeah, I'm taking what I've recorded as well. So 467.8. I was riding for 22 hours and 51 minutes, which gives me an average speed of 20.5. Average cadence 82, average heart rate, do you remember that one?
135.
135. You got the climbing as well.
7,000 feet of climbing.
Yeah.
Which is different to what we said during the race, because on the live track it was showing that you had like 15,000 feet, so there's something wrong with that. But the actual file shows about 7,000 feet, which sounds
normalised power 180.
Yeah.
Average was that 150, was
something
it?
Like that, yeah. So for 23 hours of riding, you've normalised 180 watts.
Yeah, I don't know. It sounds really low, but it is a long time.
Yes, it is. And that was all good enough to place you 10th overall, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So in a national championship, so just to give you some sort of idea of the scale, there are about 75, 76 names on the start list. 11 do not start, so 11 people didn't start the race, and then 20 did not complete it, so quite a high rate of attrition. And then there were 35 roughly finishers, and you were 10th. But I think you've got to remember, these 75 people that have entered are all the sort of people who were conditioned and trained and had it in their minds to race a 24-hour time trial. It's not like it's 75 riders who just pulled off the street. So I think that's definitely a result to be proud of. Were you happy with how you paced the ride?
Well, before the ride started, absolutely everyone I was speaking to was saying, whatever you do, don't start too fast. So many people kept saying it. I heard it so many times, and I had that in my head. And I went off the start, and I had in my mind that 200 watts was perfectly achievable. That was going to be fine. So I set off at 200 watts, and I think I was quite on the nose with that for quite a while. And I think that was fine until maybe about 2.5 hours in, and my feet just began to really hurt. And it was almost like my feet were hurting so much that was like the limiting factor. That's why I couldn't put the pressure on the pedals, and that's why the power started to drop off. My legs felt absolutely fine. It was just, the pain in my feet that was causing the issue. And it began to hurt with holding the aero position and the neck and things. And, 2.5 hours in, that don't sound great really, does it?
It looked good though from where we were, because it looked like you were holding position for a long time. And you said that on a clip that didn't make the final video at the end, that you didn't feel too fatigued in your legs because of the foot pain. You said it's hard to make your legs hurt when your feet hurt so much. So did it get to a point where you were really physically struggling to push the pedals?
Certainly on that first day. And I think I've learned so much from riding in the heat. I think I've learned just how important it is to cool. So spraying water directly in my shoes, I managed to work out exactly where to spray it to get it right in deep inside my shoes. And actually that's something that I didn't know before the event, and I didn't know how to make that happen. And I didn't even know really how much effect that had. But having wet socks really helped. And any water that I put on myself anywhere at any point, especially on my face, that was really helping. And I was sort of feeling refreshed for 10-15 minutes. Then I needed to do it all over again.
Okay, so 2.5 hours in, Lee, your neck's hurting a bit, your feet's hurting a bit. It is absolutely red hot. That was about 4:30 in the afternoon, so it was probably the peak of the heat.
Yeah.
what happened from then on in? Because you were still on the first out and back then, weren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I began to just think about making it to the point where the temperature's going to cool down, you know, and also sort of making it off of that first circuit as well, just to get a change of scenery, some different roads. And, you know, at that point as well, I'd got my friend Jonathan Schubert, who'd started 15 minutes behind me, and every time we turned round, I could see him on the road, so I could think, oh, he's gaining on me, you know, he's going to catch me, sort of thing. So doing an out and back, I could sort of observe where I was in relation to everyone else, and kind of that, you know, coupled with, I mean, we had a bit of drama with the bottles early on, didn't we? Because
there was a little bit of drama.
You'd managed to position yourself probably on the fastest section of road on the course, and I was trying to grab bottles at 25 mile an hour plus, which was a bit of a challenge. But I sort of learned in the end that I really needed those bottles, and if I was going to get them, it was actually worth slowing down to get them. So I started to slow down to get the bottles because I needed them. You know, I couldn't manage without that.
So as a support crew, it's difficult there because the good places is often really busy, so you can't get parked up, and then you don't really know the course. So like you go down it so far, and we were thinking, oh, Lee's going to need us very soon. We can't just spend all day driving up and down. We need to stop somewhere and just spread ourselves out. But yeah, definitely, we think reflecting on that when it is a super fast part of the course, the last thing you want to be doing is touching your brakes. But as you say, you need the fluid. That's what we had in mind. When you missed a couple of bottles, we thought, well, if you really needed it, it just stopped. So therefore, you must be okay. And we thought we'd give you 3 opportunities on each side to try and get something. But yeah, it wasn't ideal. So you're slowing down to get a bottle and then not getting it. It's like that's a waste of time, isn't it? But
I don't think at that point I'd actually realised how much more comfortable I was going to feel with that sponge on my neck and in my face, or that bottle of water sprayed all over myself. And I think if I had my time again, I'd take every bottle I was offered and every sponge I was offered, and I wouldn't refuse anything because, you know, you start to think, oh, I'm fine, I'm all right, you know, it's just going to hurt because this is the ride. But actually, as the ride went on and I took more and more bottles and sponges and sprayed them all over myself, I began to realise just how much more comfortable that was making me feel.
Yeah. Okay, so you did a few out and backs on there, and then we went on to the Prees Heath circuit, and you did 1 lap, and then you stopped for something to eat. So how was it right up to that point, and then that first stop?
Yeah, well, you know, I was not feeling good. I was feeling a bit sick. The things that I had in the bag initially, I was not really fancying them. I'd got 1 flapjack down me, and it was a bit of a struggle. I'd got another flapjack in the bag, and I couldn't face it. I'd had some gels, but to be quite honest, we're coming up 4 or 5 hours. Leading into the event, I don't really think I ate that much because it's quite stressful in the morning to get all your stuff together and to actually travel down there. And yeah, I think I just neglected really to eat quite as much as I should before the event. You know, it's hot, you're not really feeling like it.
Nervous. Yeah.
And it's having it to hand and things. And yeah, so I think come that 4 or 5 hours and only having 1 flapjack to eat, I was actually getting pretty hungry.
But hungry for normal food, not hungry for gels and sports drinks.
Sort of, it's a combination of hungry and sick. And I think I'd seen something somewhere about the sickness coming from not eating. I'd seen some nutritionalists talking about it, and the sickness coming from not eating, and then that driving you to not eat, and then it's a bit of a vicious circle. So I knew the importance of eating, but I just didn't have anything available. And you'd actually sent me a message that came up on my Wahoo screen saying food stop at 7 p.m, and that was so motivational. And the first time I saw you guys coming onto that Prees Heath circuit, and I'd said, oh, is it food stop now? Because I really wanted to stop. Because I was just dying to get some, you know, have a bit of a sit down, get some proper food inside me. But yeah, we did 1 lap, and then that was my stop. And actually on that 1 lap, that was when Jonathan Schubert caught me, and we had a bit of a conversation.
Yeah, good.
And I says to him, John, what do you do about these hot feet? They're killing me. What do I do? And he said, oh yeah, I think you're getting a bit of hot foot there. You know, you need to loosen your shoes right off, and you need ventilated shoes. And he was showing me his, and I was like, oh yeah, they look great, yeah. And I told him I was going to stop for some food on the next lap, and he said, "Oh yeah, that sounds great." And then you know, we said our goodbyes, and he powered off and just disappeared.
How rude.
Uh,
So coming to that first stop, then you said you felt quite unwell. How did the stop go for you, and what did you eat, and then what was the you know the feeling after that?
Yeah, I mean, I sat down and James started asking me what I wanted to eat, and I was kind of looking at his tray, and he'd got this selection of food. I complimented him on his spread at one point, I think. Yeah, he'd got a nice selection of food, but it was all a little bit sweet looking, and I sort of really fancied, you know, I was dreaming of like a ham sandwich or something like that, and I told the support crew I wanted a sandwich, and they sort of knocked something together for me. And James was talking about peanuts and crisps and things, and I had sort of a mouthful of those, but they were so dry and claggy, and the sandwich was so dry and claggy, and I was having to wash it down with Gatorade because I just couldn't chew it and swallow it. And you know, you want him to be fast and things. So when he offered me a trifle, that seemed like the absolutely sort of ultimate solution.
These damn trifles. We all laughed at him when he said, "I bought Lee some trifles."
It's just so easy to get down,
Yeah.
and it's, you know, it feels calorific and it feels different, you know, and it feels refreshing because it's cold. And yeah, that was a bit of a turning point, really, the trifle. And then the crew had started after that, I think, to put some sandwiches together with like soft cheese. It was almost like Dairy Lee or something. And those were amazing because they were savoury but so easy to eat, so easy to get down.
So after that first stop, you were unsure if you were going to stop again straight away for a sandwich on the next lap, but you didn't in the end because you said, I need to get cracking on now. And I think you rode then until your pre-night stop, didn't you?
Yeah, I did have it in my head that I wanted to keep riding and I didn't want to stop. And also, another thing that I think was bothering me. Oh no, that circuit, I did pass you directly, didn't I? It was the night circuit where I did it. I'm getting confused. But I know that I certainly didn't want to just do another 10 miles and stop again. So I felt enough that I'd fueled enough to sort of continue. But as I remember it, was it another couple of hours and then I stopped?
Yeah, I think you did 3 or 4 laps. And just as it was getting dusk and they were going to tell you to turn right at the next roundabout to go onto the night circuit, you stopped just then, but we were unsure if you were going to... I don't think you were fully ready to stop, but because we were going onto the night circuit and it wasn't as good a place for us to be, you said, right, I'll do it now.
Yeah, that was on the second video, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so so what happened there was... James had stopped me, he'd waved me down and stopped me, and he was telling me that I needed to sort of almost leave the course to come to where the table was when I was on the night circuit. And I knew that I wanted to eat, but I was going to do 1 lap and then eat. And then when James told me I needed to sort of come off the course, I kind of thought, well, I'll just do it now then. Yeah. Because I just, you know, get the food down me and then get my head down on the night circuit, because I had it in my head that the weather was going to get cooler as well. And I thought, you know, I had this phrase in my head. I said I was going to make hay while the sun didn't shine.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I thought that'd be a good way of getting some miles in the bank without my feet killing me, without feeling sick. And I was kind of looking forward to being cold, if I'm honest.
Yeah. It didn't really get cold until about midnight afterwards, did it?
No.
It was only a couple of hours where I put a hoodie on. The rest of it, it was a t-shirt.
Yeah. And then, so it was on to the night circuit, wasn't it, from there, after I'd had that food stop.
Just on that food stop location, so we'd had discussions about where should we be, because we could have moved everything onto the circuit, but James has always got an argument of, well, we don't want to give him somewhere to stop all the time because that will then just tempt you to stop. So as a rider, is that correct? You know, if we had it on the circuit, would you have been more tempted to stop more often? Because we're trying to weigh up. We don't want to encourage him to stop because he wants more miles in, but we also need to make sure he's still going to be alive.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. I think certainly having a convenient place to stop makes you want to stop. I think, you know, just jumping ahead, there was the time that I sat on the chair with you just before the McDonald's, and probably the reason that happened is because you were right next to the road and the chair was there. You know, maybe if that wasn't the case, I may not have had those couple of minutes in the chair.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll come back to that. So it gets dark, it gets a little bit cooler. You said you're going to make hay while the sun didn't shine. Do you feel like you were able to ride a bit better, ride a bit harder?
Yeah, I certainly think it felt like I lifted it slightly. You know, whether the numbers reflected that, I'm not sure, because it was becoming increasingly difficult to lift anything really. You know, it was just feeling like just survival. It was trying to get through it really. So I was sort of thinking about things like looking forward to the bits where I could ride easier or freewheel or something. And with a night circuit, it was a lot easier going out than it was coming back. So I'd look forward to that bit where I knew I'd get some downhill bits and I could just sort of tuck in and relax a little bit. And, you know, I was also saying things to myself like, if I go any slower than 19 miles an hour, I'm going to come out of the aero position and sit on the tops, because that felt better on the neck. And I mean, the neck was a big issue really.
I know at one point you'd asked for ibuprofen gel on your neck, so I thought it must have been causing a bit of issue. Yeah,
and if there was any points where I felt like I was going slow enough that I could almost put my head under myself and look at the white line on the floor, and I was trying to find sort of ways of just looking at the white line or looking to the side of me, and I was kind of stretching it both ways and just anything to sort of relieve the feeling.
Yeah.
And you know, the worst thing was being on the bars and having to keep it up to see ahead of you and look far ahead. You know, it was really painful.
Especially because of the dark, you're almost like squinting a bit and concentrating more than you would do in the daylight. So the night seemed to us like it was a bit of a roller coaster, and like I only had half the story because I was obviously halfway out in the course, and the other guys only had the other half of the story. So I saw you came past me the first time. I think you stopped and you took some Pro-Plus and some ibuprofen. Then he carried on, and you'd said, have you got any gels? And I kicked myself because I didn't have any gels or anything with me. And I said, I've got Lucozade, and you rode off. But that must have stuck in your mind, because the next time you came around, you said to me, have you got that Lucozade?
Yeah.
Then I got that to you. And then I think you passed me another couple of times. Once took a Lucozade, once didn't. And then I think you stopped and asked me to organise a McDonald's breakfast, which Dad did. And then the last time you stopped before you got to that breakfast stop. But what were the high and low points during the night? Did you get to a point where you thought this is actually really, really tough or not? Because when you stopped for the last time at my stop and I said, what do you want? And you were like, I just need a minute. I thought, oh, that's the first time we've almost seen a sign of like, you know, not weakness, but seen a little crack there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that first time when I stopped with you and we got the medication out of my bag, I did actually have the medication on the bag. And I was riding along down the road and I was rummaging through the bag and I just couldn't actually locate anything. And you know, you get a bit disorientated, you get a bit tired, you know, you can't really, it's like basic tasks become quite difficult. And I stopped with you because I just needed that medication. My neck was killing me and my vision was going quite blurry, which I attributed to sort of sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
You know, I started to feel like I could just curl up and have a nap kind of thing. And by the time we'd accessed the Pro-Plus and the paracetamol, I think it was almost like instantly, it was like a placebo. Well, I've had it now, I feel more awake kind of thing. And then, we carried on, and
I think you took a bit of water on your face as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I sort of didn't fancy a Lucozade at that point because I felt a bit sick. And then I think I'd maybe got water in the bottles or something, and that's why I thought, the Lucozade would be good because that's got something in it, you know. So I had that one of those the first time. Did I stop for that one, the first one?
No, you nearly did. I keep rolling.
That was it. Yeah. And I squeezed that and put the bottle in my pocket, didn't
Which I found out when I ran up the hill.
And I saw that on the video. I didn't realise you were running after me.
I wasn't closing any distance.
Yeah, so and then I think I'd done a couple more laps, and the next time I asked for one, it was an orange one, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought I'd try and mix it up.
That was a surprise, and it was the most amazing surprise because it was different.
Well, I just remembered how you said about your carb mix strategy. You wanted to almost alternate it so that it was a different taste. I thought, I'll give you a different one.
And that worked perfectly because that was just, it was really refreshing, really nice. But I was just focusing on getting through the night, and it was so good only being 25 minutes from a supporter at any one point, you know, knowing that all the guys were on the roundabout, then 25 minutes later you're in your car, and then, you know, it weren't that far down to the far turn, then I'd see you again, and I'd see you quite slowly because it was a big climb. And, you know, it was a big climb that I was sitting up on, and I know I was going slow, but I was still touching 400 watts going up there. So yeah, and I was thankful to have a little chain ring. You know, the little chain ring was used quite a bit on some of those climbs. I'd say the one thing was, I think you could have done with someone with you.
Yeah, I think as a support car, something we look at, but I know because we hadn't planned to do that. I thought the night loop was a lot shorter, so the plan to just be in one place. I thought the whole thing was 10 miles, but it was about 18 or 20, wasn't it, or however long it was. And when after you'd done one, I thought, oh, that's quite long. I'm going to go out, because me and your mum had walked out of the course first time. I was thinking, it's been a long time. Then I figured out how long it was. I thought, I'm going to drive out a little bit. And everybody else had their own jobs to do and other stuff to do. So I didn't really know how long you're going to be on there for, or how long I was going to be out for, or whatever. So I said, I'm going to go out. When I was out there, I was thinking, yeah, it would have been good to have somebody else here, but next time.
Yeah, I mean, that was the place that me and my dad stopped when we were supporting Jonathan in the 2016 24. But the advantage that me and my dad had is I had a couple of hours kip whilst he was looking after John, and then he had a couple of hours kip. I mean, I did appreciate that you stayed awake pretty much all night, because I can't tell you how valuable it was just to keep seeing you.
Good, I'm glad it was. The stop you had when you had your McDonald's breakfast, and then when you carried on, the next time you come down the hill, I was always thinking, you know, am I going to see him again or not? When you came down the hill, you were tucked up and you were smiling, and I thought, yes. And that emotion I showed on there wasn't in any way false. I was like, come on.
Well, that's how I felt when I saw you as well, you know.
Good.
But, you know, shall we talk about the puncture? Because that was a...
Yeah, so... Your mechanical issues were mainly in the night, weren't they?
Yeah.
Matt had flagged earlier on. He was like, oh, have you noticed Lee's pedal? I was like, what do you mean his pedal? He said something to do with your spindle looked a bit funny or something. And I was like, what? And we were trying to decide whether we take the pedals off of your spare bike and put them on your bike, like on one of the stops.
Why, is there something wrong?
I don't know, really so. But when I had looked at it on another stop, we decided not to tell you because we didn't want to worry you. But they looked all right to me, so goodness knows. But we had a whole 10-minute discussion on whether we were going to take the pedals off your spare bike or have your spare bike ready. But in the end, we decided to leave the pedals on your spare bike because a bike change would be quicker than a pedal change.
I do like to get a lot of use out of my components.
Yeah, sure you do. Okay, so in the night you had your main mechanical issues, which were punctures. So what happened?
So I'm just sort of riding. There was quite a dark bit of the circuit, quite narrow, quite bumpy, and that was the bit closest to Prees Heath. And it was littered with potholes, really. And there was also quite a lot of lorries and things. And I'm riding down this road. I'm on the aero bars, and I'm just avoiding the potholes, sort of almost really riding in the middle of the road. But to be honest, holding a line was actually quite difficult when you're so tired. I was actually getting a bit weavy. And then all of a sudden, don't really know what happened, but I know that I went down the mother of all potholes. It was such a clunk. And I thought, oh my God, are my tri-bars going to have shifted, you know? And I was sort of looking all over the bike, looking for the damage. And then the next bit, I knew the damage because I could feel the disc wheel sort of carbon on tarmac. And I thought, oh crap. And I just got off the bike, remembered what James had said about if you get a puncture, just stay calm, get the nutrition in, stay where you are, we'll come to you. And anyway, I got James on the phone and I said, and the first thing he answered and he didn't actually sound like him. And I went, is that James Simpson? Because I thought I'd rang a different James. Can you imagine just ringing a random James in the middle of the night saying, yeah, I've got a rear wheel puncture like 3 o'clock in the morning.
There might have been more help than Simpson then.
But yeah, so he said, oh yeah, it's James Simpson. So I said, right, James, I've got a rear wheel puncture. I'm on my way up to the roundabout. I don't think I'm far away from the roundabout. James said, right, you get walking. We'll bring a wheel to you.
Yeah.
So from what I can gather at that point, he was going to get in the van and drive a wheel to me. And I said to him, James, there's nowhere to stop. It's pitch black. I don't know what you're going to do. And he just went, oh, we'll sort that out. Don't you worry about it. So I starts walking, and I wanted to walk at a pace where the auto pause weren't going to kick in on my Wahoo because I wanted to record the miles.
Yeah.
So I started to walk, and I don't know, I thought, is this the sort of sleep deprivation, or does that look like Priest roundabout? And I was sort of squinting a bit, and I was like, oh, I'm sure that looks like the roundabout.
Like a mirage.
Yeah, and I was convinced enough that I picked the phone up and I said, James, I think I'm so close to the roundabout, I can see it. And then James went, right, that's it, we're going to run down with the wheels. So I'm walking, James and Matt are running, and I can sort of see these head torches bouncing, and he's going, Lee, is that you? And I'm like, yeah, James, it's me. And then, yeah, we get the rear wheel out, and I said to them, it's my bike. It's a bit funny, to be honest, a bit awkward. Maybe it's better if I change it. So I changed the wheel, like for like, another zip disc wheel. The front was still up, so we thought, oh, that's all good. And then they got me on my way, and that was that. And yeah, I don't think really I lost too much time. I'd say maybe about 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, so whilst Matt might have claimed that he ran half a mile at breakneck speed, the stats that recorded on his watch, it was 0.17 of a mile, which he ran at about 8.5 minute miling. So it was about 1:20 of them running. So yeah maybe 4 or 5 minutes in total. Yeah. But that's not worst case scenario, is it? That's pretty good for a puncture start.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose this is the advantage of having sort of seasoned runners in your support crew, really, which was, it's pretty nice.
That was the thought for me going out onto the course, because it's so long, I had to take a set of wheels in the car. Yeah. So if you did puncture that far away, I'm a lot closer to you than they are.
I must admit, though, it did make me laugh when I realised Matt had recorded his run and uploaded it to Strava.
He said his watch did it automatically. So he says. Okay, so then you shot your rear wheel, and then on either the next lap or the lap after, when you stopped with me, you noticed that your front wheel wasn't quite round.
Well, it was when the daylight began to break. I started to look down at the front wheel, and I thought, oh, I don't know if that looks right, But I thought I could see a patch of sealant on the side, but actually it ended up just being the Vittora decal. I mean, the mind plays tricks on you at 4:30 in the morning, But yeah, I felt like there was something not right with it. And that's when I stopped with you. I wanted you to sort of confirm there's something not right with it. And I think you had, but you just didn't let on.
Well, yeah, I mean, I looked at it and I could see a crack in the side of the wheel. But I pushed it and it was solid. So I thought, well, it's going to be okay for him to roll on to get to Priest Heath. I thought, if you stop with me and I swap your wheel, you're another 3 or 4 minutes on faffing around the wheel, and you just sat there. I think I had a bottle of Lucozade, but you've not got your McDonald's breakfast that you wanted and everything else. I thought you better just keep in rolling, getting towards there. I know that then that's your last lap on that circuit, so I was you can only pass somebody in a car once every 10 miles in these events. So I thought if I go past Lee, I can't then pass him again. So I thought I'd hang back 2 or 3 minutes, then I'd slowly make my way up to him, and then I actually passed you when you were about 3 miles away from Priest Heath, knowing that if Lee had gone past me then, he's probably closer to the support crew than he is to me. And if he pulled over the flat tyre, I could have swapped his wheel pronto. And that was the thought process behind that. So when you then gone, I then messaged Matt saying, change that front wheel when Lee gets to you.
So I ordered the breakfast on a rolling through, didn't I?
Yeah.
And then the next lap was when I stopped and said I need a minute. Yes. And that was when we checked the wheel. And then was that when they had the breakfast ready?
Yes.
It was, yeah.
Because you said something like, is it there? And I was like, I can't say anything other than yes, but I knew it was.
I just felt hungry and I wanted something hot and savoury. And yeah, McDonald's is a bit of a treat, I do like it. Yeah. They do a good breakfast.
Did you have a trifle as well at breakfast or not?
I don't think I did, I had a coffee though, and that triggered a bit of a reaction.
Yeah.
So Q going to the petrol station to do my business, and there was someone in the toilet at the time, so I had to queue. There was also a girl queuing outside who very kindly, because she saw I had race numbers on and all that, she said, you can go in front of me if you want.
Bet you regretted that.
And I said, oh, are you sure? And then I went in there and it felt like the whole world fell out my backside.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, oh, this poor girl, she's got to come in here after me. And I was spending time trying to sort of clean up and make it presentable, and I was putting bleach in the toilet, trying to make it not smell and all sorts. I thought, what's she going to think of me? So I went out and I said to the girl, I've tried to make it as presentable as I can in there for you.
Throughout the whole event, Lee, you've been far too polite. Watching back the videos, when you're asking for stuff, it's, oh, would you please mind giving me you're in a race, just don't worry about it, just get to it. Blimey. Okay, so then you got onto the you did a few more Priest Heath circuits then, and Matt and I came about 2 or 3 miles into the circuit onto a hill, didn't we?
Yeah.
It started getting hot quite early on, didn't it?
Yeah, do you know the thing is, one of the problems that I had at that point was Matt had changed his t-shirt and I didn't recognise him.
Yes, he said that, you didn't spot him, yeah.
So I don't know if he thought I was snubbing him, but I had it in my head that you guys were wearing pink, and because he wasn't, I kept forgetting it's him.
Yeah, the issue was I'd given everybody one t-shirt. I had a spare, so I changed for day 2. But of course, everybody had been sweating and stuff on day 1, so a lot of people got I know.
I wore the same clothing for 24 hours.
So a lot of people had changed. But yeah, Matt said exactly that. He didn't think you'd spotted him with the first bottle.
I'm glad he realised that. Cool.
Okay, so we were there. We were just giving you bottles of water and sponges, really, weren't we?
Yeah, which was amazing.
And you were getting foods and garlic mix, whatever else from the feed station. I think you do 3 or 4 laps on the pre-season. And again, you were the last person on that circuit.
I think James had said to me, this circuit's a lot easier than the finishing circuit.
Yeah, we had been told that.
Yeah. He said it's a lot flatter. And he also said, you come off here at 10 o'clock.
That's what we've been
And
told.
I actually got a spurt on to make sure I got another lap in, because I had it in my head that I needed to be at the roundabout before 10 o'clock.
You were quite right. That's exactly what it was. So we were shouting to you, you'll get another 1 or 2 in here because of exactly that. And I've been and spoke to the timekeepers, and the way they'd said it was that it wasn't 10 o'clock hard fast rule. Depending on how fast you were going, if somebody went through at 10 to 10, who was perhaps a slower rider, they might have got directed up to the finish circuit, whereas somebody who's moving faster at 10 o'clock might have got sent around for another one.
Yeah. So I'd actually busted the gut to get there for 10 o'clock. And then when he put me back on that circuit again, I actually relaxed a little bit and took that one a bit steadier, the final lap, because I'd actually worked quite hard just to make sure I got another lap in.
Yeah, good. So then we got up to the pre-seed roundabout, where you were then coming off of that pre-seed circuit and you were going to go up to the finishing circuit. And that sounds really motivational, something we really want to get across to you. Come on, Lee, we're going to the finishing circuit. Whereas in reality, the ride from the pre-seed circuit to the finishing circuit was hell, wasn't it?
Well, actually, there was a lot of downhill on it.
Okay, right.
So I know there was some uphill, but the elevation was negative. It was really negative. Okay. And it was actually fun. I was going down some really big hills, sort of well over 30 mile an hour and just not pedalling, and it was great, really.
That's strange, because we'd seen people stopped when I drove to the HQ. I've seen people stopped on the side of the road and people off the bike.
Yeah, there were some difficult climbs, I'm not going to lie, but I think in a way I was finding actually difficult climbs were nice because I had a little ring. I think maybe your cassette on your disc wheel had a bigger sprocket as well.
A 26, a massive 26, which was bigger than your 23.
So, and I had a 42 in a ring. And actually, I was enjoying just sitting up on the climbs because it's easy to put the power out. I know I don't need to be in an aero position. So, yeah, I was quite enjoying those.
Yeah, okay. So then we got up to the finishing circuit, and you got up to the finishing circuit on about 4:20, maybe 4:30, something like that. 1:20 miles. So you still had, I think you had 2.5 hours to go when you got to the finishing circuit. But the finishing circuit wasn't pretty by any means, was it? Just ran an industrial state, really.
Yeah, and the heat had got unbearable again, hadn't it? And I was suffering with the hot feet and things again. But I think I'd learned so much from the first day about managing it that it was actually easier. And the finishing circuit really confused me because it was not the same circuit that we'd had when I'd supported riders before.
And it wasn't the same as the 12 last year. It confused me as well.
And And it was so strange because it had all these dog legs and weird bits. And, you know, at one point there was a couple of people that directed me to go left. And I turned left and I thought, this is really strange. And there was no arrows or anything. And I thought, hold on, those people weren't wearing marshal vests. And I thought, I hope they're not trying to sabotage me or something. So I actually turned round and asked another marshal if this was the right way. And he said, yeah, it's the right way. So it took me a while to sort of get comfortable with that finishing circuit and really kind of learn it, because it was just up and down and dog legs and weird bits, and there was a circular bit in the middle, and it was just strange.
Yeah. So we deliberately positioned ourselves. It was a bit like a lollipop stick. So there's the base and then a bit at the top. We were on the stick part of it because we could see you on both sides. Whereas if you went onto the circuit, we'd only see you once. And we also thought we actually wanted to pick a fast bit of road. Yeah. Because if you're having a proper stop, it wouldn't matter how fast the road was. And we thought it's a bit less tempting for you to stop, given that you were so close.
Yeah, I think you had a fantastic position on the finishing circuit. It was great. And I really liked the way that you were quite close to a turn. So I saw you once and then I saw you really quickly again afterwards. So it'd be easy for me to ask for something. And then, I mean, I know I never asked for anything and I didn't really talk much, did I? But that was just because I just felt like I was fine and I wanted to get on with it, really. And I just, you know, I definitely appreciated every time I saw someone, even if it looked like I was blanking you and ignoring you.
Even if I'm not giving you anything or doing anything, just having that support shouted at you.
It lifted me just to know you were there.
Yeah. I know how much of an effect it has at like triathlons and stuff. Like Liz will go mental when she's shouting. She'll be going, whoa, and all this sort of stuff. And it looks a bit strange from the outside looking in, but I know how beneficial that is to me. So I was thinking, particularly on the night circuit, I'm music pumping, I'm dancing on the side of the road and all sorts, just to
Absolutely.
Blood,
the music was great, and I like the cowbells and things that people had as well. It adds to the atmosphere, and it just gives you a bit of a lift.
Yeah. So the last few laps on the finishing circuit, and then done. But before we come to the finish and next steps, we touched on equipment briefly. On the bike, is there anything that you're particularly happy with or not happy with? Would you change anything if you were to do it again? Basically, please don't forget to mention NRG chains.
Well, I mean, if we start with that then, given you brought it to my attention, that chain was just, it felt like the whole day, it just didn't give me any issues at all. It was like I didn't have a drivetrain. It was like riding on a cloud. It just felt so nice.
Yeah, so you hadn't really waxed chain before, had you? And you got it on the day before the race. You went for a 10-minute spin and you messaged me and you were like, oh my God, I've
never experienced anything like that before because there's just no noise or friction or it feels like there's no lost energy or anything. So and the fact that we knew we never had to touch it.
But so that's the other big point for us as a support crew as well. When you've stopped, we've got all these things to do, to know that we haven't got to look at the drive. Well, you look at the drivetrain, make sure it's okay, but I'm going to maintain it, I'm going to put a lube on it, it is just perfect. It probably needs re-waxing now to use again, but 460 miles with absolutely no work on the drivetrain, brilliant.
And another thing as well that I was thinking about the chain is it had a lot of water on it.
If you're tipping on it.
And actually it performed pretty well given that.
Yeah.
And it was quite bling as well because it was rainbow coloured.
Exactly, yeah. So thanks again, Nick at NRG Chains, absolutely awesome. If you guys want to support Nick, who supports me and supports others, check out the link down below. You can get £10 off of a race wax chain if you use the code TRYDAN. You're welcome. So other equipment wise, I suppose you have to change your wheels at some point because then they're done. Lights worked all okay, didn't they? We swapped your rear one 2 or 3 times, I think. Not because it had died, just because we had the other one charged. When you stopped anyway, it took 2 seconds. Your front one got changed once, didn't it?
Yeah.
Probably didn't need it. But again, I think, I wasn't there when it was changed, but they said they had the opportunity to, so they did.
Yeah, it felt like that was the one thing I was waiting for at that point, though. But...
so at your stop, you'd finished doing what you wanted to do, and Matt was changing the light, and you were obviously having to wait for him to change the light. Yeah, okay.
Well, it's a bit fiddly to get it changed, really, but it is what it is. And had it have died in the middle of the night, and I'd been in pitch black, I'd have probably been, cursing Matt for not
Yeah.
changing it.
Well,
So-
John Schubert had lost some time due to his light running out.
Oh,
hadn't he?
okay.
Yeah, so you hadn't seen that. So we'd seen that.
Oh,
So James was like, change that front light.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Then.
So, and he was also beside himself that you didn't carry a spare light with you, but we didn't discuss that. We didn't think about that, did we? So,
Well, James did mention it actually. James said you need to take some kind of torch with you.
it's annoying like that, isn't it?
But I knew that I had my phone
Yeah,
that's got a
exactly,
torch on it. So I thought, worst case scenario, that's what I'll do,
Anything else equipment-wise you want to talk about? Like powered everything with a power bank?
I mean, I think your idea of getting the light on a modular sort of computer mount, and it was so neat. And you did some jiggery pokery turning the computer around and things and getting it all the right angle, and it was absolutely bang on, really.
It just stayed there, didn't it?
Yeah.
76 projects mount.
Yeah. A GoPro mount, isn't it?
Underneath,
And then we got a GoPro mount for the Lesine light, which just works perfectly. And I had some doubts about stability, but it was all perfect. Using the power bank to power the Wahoo was great because I didn't have to stress about it. And I did show battery levels on my computer. I had like a quick shortcut that I could flick to look for battery levels, and I knew my phone battery level and the Wahoo. And it was just no stress that I knew I was broadcasting the link to you guys, and I didn't want to have to swap computers and be stitching rides together and things. I just wanted to finish and upload the ride straight away, and it didn't really cause me any hassle carrying the power bank and an extra wire. What difference does it make?
And the so the live track link was really handy for us, not in terms of, because once you were on a loop, the first thing we'd do is Matt and I would time you, so we'd know roughly how far you're going to be one side and how far you're going to be the other. So we didn't really rely on the live track link for that. But whilst on the night circuit, I'm thinking, oh, it's been a little while, I'm checking the link, I could see that you were stopped at HQ, or I could see that you were 2 or 3 miles away. That was a big help that way. And it was more than anything, it was interesting just to keep these guys updated with how far you'd ridden, because if we didn't have that, I'd have no idea how far you'd ridden.
Well, I'd actually sent the same link to my girlfriend as well, and she was sending me text messages.
I plastered it on Instagram. People were following it on there.
So she'd sent me a text message just before she was going to bed, and she said, "Oh, well done, you've done 200 miles sort of thing. I'm so proud of you." And then she'd woken up quite early the next morning, and she'd said, "Oh my God, I can see you've done 300 miles now." And that was quite motivational, because the Wahoo, the text messages will come up on the screen. And I'd got the ones from you saying, you're in 8th place, 6th place, those kinds of things.
It was hard for us to gauge whether to message you or not, because you don't even know how it's being received.
Yeah.
Like, you might be thinking, get out, I'm just trying to focus and trying to ride. So I thought I'd send you a few messages, but nothing too big. And I was also conscious that you can only get like 5 or 6 words on the screen. So I was just trying to get it like, you're smashing it or something like that on screen first. But good to know that was well received.
Yeah, because my girlfriend had sent me an essay and I couldn't read it all. And that felt a little bit frustrating. But when I had the puncture and I got the phone out to ring James anyway, I did quickly just read the full message at that point.
Okay. Right, so before we go on to close, you guys, or some of you guys, have asked loads of questions on Instagram. I said I was going to come to Leeds tonight, so I'll try and compact them down a little bit. Lee, there are quite a few questions about the undercarriage, gentleman berries, etc.
Yeah.
How are things down there?
Well, it's been touch and go. It's been difficult.
Yeah.
I think the first day when I got off the bike, I felt like everything was fine. A little bit tender. But then I did actually go through a phase, with the heat and stuff and the sweating. It's not to go into too much detail, but it's sort of been difficult with, wearing normal clothes and sweating with this hot weather that we've got. And, things did become to sting a little bit down there, sort of, particularly in the sort of join between the legs and the groin, the sort of that little joint in there, it became sort of not very pleasant.
Wet skin suit as well sort of folds up there, doesn't it?
But to be quite honest, not quite as bad as I've had it in the past, really.
Okay.
So, I managed to get away reasonably scot-free, I think. but certainly over the last few days, I'd say that's probably the reason why I've not ridden. I've not ridden my bike yet since the 24, and that's probably why.
Okay.
Because
I think you deserve a few days off.
I'm thinking of a ride probably in the morning.
I did pull in the car park last night for the club ride. I did say, Lee not turned up then.
I did think about it, but yeah.
Everybody was talking about the ride though. Everybody was. Brilliant. Okay, quite a few questions about how did you train for the 24-hour and what was your longest ride in training?
Yeah, I mean, frankly, the answer is I didn't. I've got quite a lot going on in my personal life at the minute, and my fitness is not anywhere near where I'd like it to be, if I'm perfectly honest. Just with one thing and another, and I've not had a good lockdown really. You know, I've found that it quite mentally stressful, and I've not missed any work or anything due to lockdown, so I've not had any extra time. And I've felt like I've not actually been in a great place, so sometimes training's not that desirable.
Of course, yeah.
And we've had some pretty bad weather as well.
Yeah.
And I've not really fancied like Zwift and things like that. I've done a bit, but probably not as much as I should. In terms of preparation for this, I did have really good intentions, and I started doing some quite big rides on the time trial bike to test equipment. Probably the biggest ride I did was 5.5 hours, which I think was about 130, 140 miles from memory, I think. Maybe 21.5 average, I think that one was. And I actually had to stop because it got dark and I didn't have the light sorted at that point. And then we did the Skegness ride with a South Normanton club. That was quite a big ride. So that was from here to meet in South Normanton, and then we rode to Skegness, and then I rode back to my girlfriend's in Grantham. That was like 150 miles. I'd say that's probably the biggest ride I did. So 5.5 hours on the time trial bike, or I think that was, I can't really remember how long we were doing that for, but it was 150 miles. Probably like 7 hours or something, I think it was.
I think it's a bit longer than that.
Yeah.
Okay. Quite a few questions about like your mental state throughout the ride. So I'll give you a flavour of some of the questions. How did you deal with the ups and downs? When was the hardest part mentally? How did you cope mentally and not get overwhelmed by how long you had to cycle for? What was going on in your head? What thoughts were you having throughout the ride? Basically, I think what people are saying is, how did you mentally break down the challenge that you had ahead of you and motivate yourself throughout?
I think it was about picking things to look forward to that weren't too far in the distance. And it was about sort of thinking about, how I was going to get through the next X amount of hours and what I had to look forward to. And I think it was quite a surprise to me when after 2.5 hours things started to really hurt. And I was sort of thinking, well, this is not good. But I think I did think, well, I'm just going to break it down. And I sort of thought, well, it's only another hour and a half until I get to 4 hours, and then I'll have 20 hours left. And, I've took the little bit off, and then I was sort of thinking, well, then it won't be that long until I've done 8 hours, and then I'm a third of the way through. And I was just trying to break it down like that. And one of the things that I was really concentrating on is how to make myself feel better. So I was feeling rubbish at times, I was feeling sick. My feet were hurting. I was hot. And I was just thinking about how can I make myself feel better so this is more bearable. So that was the cooling, the sponges. Sometimes if I took my bottle off my bike and drank gulped down a really large amount of something, that'd stop me feeling sick for a while. And just thinking like that really. And, things like when you told me I was going to have a food stop in a sort of a couple of hours time, I knew I only had a couple of hours until I'd be sitting in a chair eating some nice food.
Yeah.
And then I knew that I'd be going onto a different circuit. I was looking forward to some different roads,
Yeah, it makes up. But it's good to hear how much the physical things like water on you and stuff improves your mental state in order to focus on it. I think it really hit me the magnitude of what you were doing when you got through the night and the sun came up, and we were like, because I certainly thought, great, he's done it now. He's got through the night. Actually, he's still 8 hours riding to do, and that's when it hit me like, whoa, this is actually still a long way to go.
Yeah, I think when the sun came up at 4:30. Whilst that was daybreak, that wasn't really the thing that lifted me. It was the fact that I was going to have breakfast. That breakfast was so important because it was normal and it was savoury and it was hot and it was sort of wholesome and, salty and I forgot to ask for brown sauce, and I thought, I really need brown sauce. If it comes with ketchup on it, that's just not going to be as good. But I was so lucky because it had brown sauce on it.
Thought your dad might know. Okay, what do you think about safety during the ride? A couple of comments saying that you appeared quite disorientated and, obviously tired and stuff. What do you think about riding through the night, these sorts of events? Do you feel safe?
As long as you manage yourself, I think. So there were points where it was getting a bit touch and go and my eyes were glazing over and things were going blurry. But I took responsibility for that and did the right thing. So I took medication to help with that. For me, the Pro Plus was invaluable. I wouldn't advise doing it without that personally. Because it was that was getting in my system and then making me more alert again. But yeah, I think staying alert is pretty difficult. But whilst there were parts of the night circuit that weren't good, the majority of the night circuit was perfect. And it's like you've almost got to do the bit that's not very nice to get to Prees Heath because that's the turn, isn't it? And it's, if they resurfaced the sort of mile or two between Prees Heath and the rest of it, it'd be ideal. It's just that it's a bit bumpy around there. And the road is quite narrow, but when you get out of that couple of miles, it opens up into quite a wide, visible road, and there's a little bit of street lighting going on, and it's quite straight, and the surface is nice.
Okay, quite a few questions on. Will you do it again, and what next?
Well, I think as soon as I'd finished, I said same again next year, didn't I?
Because I know you did, but we didn't take it as gospel because of course you just finished.
Well, I think the thing is, the whole thing was such a learning experience. People can tell you things and you can listen and you can sort of take it on board, but you don't really understand until you've done it. And now I really understand. I really think that I could, I think even just having one under your belt might be worth 10, 15 miles, just because you know what to expect. I mean, part of it even is that now I know that it's possible because it don't really sound reasonable, does it, to say, my longest bike ride until this point has been 12 hours, okay? And that was hell. 12 hours is pretty difficult. I don't want to put you off. I don't want to put you off this, but 12 hours is difficult, okay? And let's face it, when we go out for a Sunday ride and it's 4 hours, that can sometimes be quite difficult, can't it?
Yes, it can.
Especially in the heat.
A Wednesday night can be quite difficult.
Yeah. And, you start thinking, well, I'm not going to do a 4-hour Sunday ride. I'm not even going to do like a skeggy and back that might be like 10 hours, I'm not even going to do a 12-hour. Actually, I'm going to do double that, and you start thinking, well, am I cut out for that? Could I manage that? Are all these other people so much better than I am? Do they know something more? Are they something more? Have they trained more? That kind of thing. But I think now I know really all you've got to do is just keep riding, isn't it?
That's all you've got to do. Just keep riding.
As long as you don't stop, you're going to do the 24 hours, aren't you? Which sounds a bit of a simple way of looking at it, and I think I basically rode at a pace that I was going to make it. But the thing is, I felt really good in the last hour.
You said that.
Does that tell you something? Could I have gone harder?
It's a fine line to tread, isn't it, though? Having a bit left at the finish versus going too hard 3 hours out. Because when you got onto the pre-seed circuit, you were flying and we were saying things to motivate and you were going well. And I shouted something to you like, moderate your effort. But Stenix, I was thinking he's still got about 4 hours to go. And you've been pedaling for 20 hours. It's not like you can suddenly lift it and do 300 watts for 4 hours, is it?
No. But things were very up and down as well. And if you had a good spell and pressed on because you were feeling good, there were points when I pressed on a little bit too much and then started to pay for it. Yeah, it was a fine line. But, I feel just in terms of, I think if it was hot again, I could cope with it better.
Yeah.
I think if it was cool again, I did another one and it was cooler, I think that would be better. I just think I'm probably more prepared for the hot weather now. I mean, I did a 12-hour in similar weather and packed a few, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And that was probably the last 12-hour I attempted, I think. Oh no, actually the Brecklin was the last because I retired on that. I thought
2013.
I thought 288, that'll do me. I thought I can leave it at that now.
Yeah. Blimey. Okay, well, this has been a bit more like a podcast than the usual vlog style video, but I hope you've enjoyed it. So I thought you want to add about the 24-hour experience or anything?
I think I got a different perspective from riding it this time. So I've been to support a couple of times and I appreciate the atmosphere as a supporter. I think as a rider, you don't quite experience that the same. I think I saw a lot less than I expected to because, you're traveling quite quick and you're a bit out of it really. So, some of the things I've seen them after the event and didn't realise they were there during it. For example, I've seen a sign or two that I didn't actually see during the event, but you must have had them out. But I was just so vision was blurry and I was going so quick. I just Well,
you didn't see James on one lap and he said to me, I was holding a sign and I was pointing at it and shouting Lee and he just rode straight past me.
Yeah. Well, that's how it goes, Yeah. And I even threw bottles at the wrong people because they were dressed in pink, But I think I'm glad to get one under my belt. I think I had some big aspirations going into it that I didn't quite achieve, which now makes me feel like I've got a bit of unfinished business. And I don't think I want to stop until I feel like I've achieved all I can. So I definitely want another go because I just feel like just with the knowledge that I've got from doing one, I could go further.
Yeah, okay. I'd agree. I think you did brilliantly and you delivered probably the best ride you could have delivered.
Yeah.
But I think there's more in you.
Absolutely.
Both in terms of knowledge and experience and in terms of fitness.
Yeah, I don't think I'll stop trying until I've at least broken 500. That has to be, I'll just have to carry on until I've done that.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. You heard it here first. Now, for those that have made it to this point, I think I'll give you a little bit of a treat. I'm not going to mention this in any of the videos until they happen, potentially. We've got a bit more of an endurance / ultra endurance group going off now in our club, spurred on by performances like Lee's. So myself, Lee, Matt, Triple Brutal James, and maybe a couple of others. We've got a few plans in mind. Some of these things we may or may not do. Some of these things might not be all of us doing it, but we're thinking of things like Land's End John O'Groats, but doing it with urgency. That's what ultra endurance people call it.
Yeah.
Race across America has been discussed. I mean, that's hugely expensive and obviously not really possible in current times. But, those sorts of things are all things that we're thinking about doing because we've got these athletes, these people and the support crew who are all experiencing this sort of thing. And I look at people that do race across America and think, oh, they're way better than us. actually they're just normal people who do the same sorts of things as us. So, and I reckon we can mix it with the best. So I think we're going to do what we can over the next year or two, document it because you guys seem to enjoy it as well, and get do some crazy cool stuff.
Am I allowed to let it slip about the other thing?
Yeah, go on.
The time lapse.
Yeah.
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 The Red Bull time lapse.
Oh yeah.
So that's happening in October.
Yeah. So we've got a team in for Red Bull time lapse, which is yourself, myself, Matt. Who's the other person? Is it Wayne? I can't remember this. When you were doing the time trial, we named 3 people who were doing it, and I was like, who's the 4th person? It was you. We couldn't remember you. Who is it? Oh, anyway, we've got a team in for Red Bull time lapse, 25 hours, but we only got to do a quarter of it.
Yeah.
That should be good. Okay.
But it's still going to be quite intense, isn't it? Because I imagine we're not going to sleep that well.
Yeah, 25-hour crit. Be good. Okay, that is it then. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks for support to both the support crew and to Lee during the event. Honestly, you're not on Instagram, as you haven't seen all that, but there's been loads of support on Instagram. People messaging me, people commenting on stuff. So thank you very much for that. All the comments on YouTube have been brilliant. I've seen you in the comment section as well, mixing it up. So.
Absolutely, yeah. I guess just to close, I have to say that the support crew were just absolutely out of this world. I could not have asked for anything more. I can't even believe how well you did. The one thing I'd say is you're on quite a bit of a fast road to begin with, but aside from that, everything else was absolutely bang on. You know, you were in the right places all the time with the right stuff.
Yeah, thanks.
And it makes doing something like this possible, really, and so much easier.
Yeah, similar to you, it's a learning curve for supporters as well as a rider, isn't it? So I think, again, there's things that we would think about like that would be better for next time. So there's gains there as well, isn't there? Oh, brilliant. See you tomorrow at 4 p.m.